What's up guys, Andre here, and today I'd like to show you how you can do authentication with GraphQL. We'll be looking at doing this with the Lighthouse package and Laravel Passport. Now I'm going to be assuming that you understand the basics of token-based authentication with Passport. If you don't, then make sure to watch my videos on this, which I will link to below. There's two videos. So there's one for the backend where we set up Passport and get auth tokens returned to us upon receiving the correct credentials. And the other one is the front end where we take that token, send it to the server, and are able to log in. So we'll do the same here where we'll first set up the backend with Passport and get an auth token returned to us upon successful login. Then in the next video, we'll see how we can take that token and send it through for subsequent requests. So let's first install Passport and see how to do this traditionally with REST, and then we'll try to mimic that with GraphQL. So I'm going to be starting from the project we built in the first video. So if you watch that video, you know we built a very basic blog implementation where we have users, posts, and comments. And a user has many posts, a post has many comments, and we set up our types here in our GraphQL schema, and we also set up our queries, and we have one mutation here. So yeah, as a refresher, here's a query we can run. There it is. So yeah, I started using graphical more. If you watch the other videos, I was using GraphQL Playground, and I've just encountered more bugs than I do with graphical, so I kind of switched over. Just kind of wish they had a dark mode. Okay, so let's install Passport first. So if you already know how to use Passport, you can feel free to skip this, but I'm going to do it from scratch really quickly. So Composer require it. That is the incorrect repo, sorry. It's a Lighthouse tutorial. This one. Okay, that's done. What's next? Next is to migrate. Okay. Next is to PHP Artisan Passport install. And this will install our clients, and we're interested in the password grant client. So we are interested in this one. So let me just copy this. And now it says add has API tokens to your user class. So let's do that. User has API tokens. And let's import that. Okay. Next. Call Passport routes in your auth service provider. Auth service provider, Passport routes. So I'm going to do that, but I'm just going to specify that I just want the routes for password grant. So Passport routes, and we'll just pass in a closure function, router, and we just want something like this. Router for access tokens. Okay. Make sure to import Passport. And in config auth, change the API to Passport. Config auth, change the API to Passport. Okay, I think that's it. So yeah, I think that's it. So to use this, again, this is just the traditional way. Let me just do PHP Artisan route list. Unexpected auth service provider. Sorry. Forgot a semicolon. Okay, so let's do that again. Really? All right, let's try key generate. Okay, so there's our route list. And the endpoint we're interested in to log in is this OAuth token. So I'm just going to use my traditional REST client. Actually, let me just show you. Where's the password? Password grant. So here, we just have to pass in, again, to OAuth token. It's a post request. Pass in all of these fields. And then if it's correct, then we should get a token back. So let's go ahead and go into my REST client and try this out. I'm going to make a new request. It's going to be called Passport. Login. It's going to be a post request. And let's set the header. Let's accept application JSON. Okay. And let's set the URL. HTTP lighthouse tutorial.test/OAuth/token. Okay, let's see if we get a response. Okay, and we do. Cool. That's just because we didn't pass in this information, which we will do so here. So we'll just pass in a multi-part form, and let's pass in everything I said here. So grant type is password. Client ID is what I copied. Do I still have it copied? Let's see. I don't. Let me check here. Okay, so the ID is 2, and the secret is this. 2, and it's client secret, I think is the next one. Client secret, yep. Paste that in. What's next? And now it's just the username and the password. So any users in our database, and I think we have a whole bunch. Let me just username and password. And we don't need the scope. Okay, so let's go into our database. I think I have some here. So yeah, there's a whole bunch here. We'll just pick one. And I think the default password is secret. So I'll pick Javon. Let's copy that. And let's try an incorrect password first and see if we get a proper response. And we do, invalid credentials. But if it's correct, this should return a token. And it does, cool. So in our front end, we would store this in local storage or cookies. And then we would make subsequent requests with this token, and that should authenticate us. So let me show you what I mean, actually. So if we make another request, let me just copy this. It's a GET request, subsequent request. Paste that in. But if we make a request to, if you check out Routes API, sorry, let me just remove this. Routes API, and this endpoint is behind API/API/user, and it's behind this middleware, and it's just returning the logged in user's details. So let's do that. So /API/user. So there's no token being passed in yet, so this should be an error. I might have to pass in application JSON. Yeah, I do. Accept application JSON. Okay. But if we pass in that token, so the header would be authorization, and value is bearer, and then the token. That's not the token. Token is here. Then this should return that user's details. There we go. So yeah, that's the traditional way of doing it in REST. And now let's do it in GraphQL. So the creator of Lighthouse actually has a video on how to do this, which I followed. I will link it in the description if you're curious. So I did everything manually like he showed in the video, and I actually had it working. But then I came across someone who wrote a package to make it even easier to do everything. So we'll take a look at using that instead. So this is the package here. It's called Lighthouse GraphQL Passport Auth. And let's go ahead and use this. So let's just compose or require it. Okay. Next is to add these into your env file. So let's do that. Just put it down here. And the client is 2, and the secret is in our REST client. So it's just this token. Sorry, not this token. This token. Okay. Is that right? Is that the entire one? Yeah, okay. And that is basically it. This exposes some GraphQL mutations and queries, just like how we would do in REST. So let me show you what I mean. So you can publish the config if you want to override the defaults. And here's what's inside the config, but the defaults are fine. So it exposes these new mutations. So logging in, refreshing token, logging out, forgot password, and update forgot password. And up here are the types for them, the types that are required. So an input is a new GraphQL type I just learned about using this package. So an input just sort of groups together inputs that you need. So for example, this login input just groups together the username and the password, and is just sort of a cleaner way of passing in inputs into your mutations. So I'll show you what I mean when I do it. So the login is of type login input, so it requires a username and a password, and it returns an auth payload. So it's going to return this stuff, which is exactly what's returned in here. And this is the custom resolver with all the code. So let's go ahead and try to log in and see if we can get an access token. So let's go into graphical. And let's comment this out. And let's make a new mutation. Mutation, okay. And it's called login. I might have to reload this. Oh, I reset the size, sorry. Does that happen every time I reload? Oh man, that sucks. Sorry about that. Okay, so login, yes, login. And it is of type login input. So yeah, that input type I was talking about, you're probably used to doing it like this. So you have to pass in a username, and then like this, whatever. And then you pass in a password. So this is basically the same thing. It just groups them together and makes it a little bit cleaner. So let me just copy this. But now instead of passing in separate fields, you just pass in one as JSON. So it'd be data, and then you have to pass in JSON here. And you can put it in its own line if you like. So username is, let's just give it an incorrect username first. See if we get an error. And password. And the autocomplete still works, so that's good. And we still want to return some stuff back. So we're just interested in the access token. So let's just get that. And yeah, there we go. We get this message. The user credentials were incorrect. So let's go ahead and again, let's get something from the database. Let's get someone else this time. Let's get Emmanuel. And paste it in here. And the password is secret. And let's see if we get that token back. And there we go. There's that token. So same thing as in the rest, but now we have this token. So I'm going to copy this. And just like how I showed you for subsequent requests in here, we had this route here we could hit. We can do something similar in GraphQL. So I'm going to go into my schema file. So schema GraphQL. And I'm going to make a new query here called me. And this is going to be similar to this, like I said, this right here, where it just returns the authenticated user's details. So as you can see here, there is an auth API middleware. So we have to do that here too. So it returns a user. And we're going to use the middleware directive. And we're going to check that it is an auth API middleware. And then we're going to also use the auth directive, which basically does this. Just returns a user. But this is going to check for the header. So it has to make sure that that token is passed in through the header. So we can do that in our GraphQL client, which I'll show you here. So let me copy this again, just in case. Okay. So I am going to comment this out. I'm going to refresh and make it bigger. And then I'm going to do that me query we just did before passing in the headers, just to see if it works. So there it is, me. And let's just say the name and the email. See if we get anything. We shouldn't get anything because we didn't pass in the token. Okay, so we're getting the HTTP response. We want the JSON response. So to pass in headers in this program, we just go up here, edit HTTP headers. And let's first add the accepts. Is it accept? I think it's accept. Let's see. Yeah, accept application JSON. Just grab this. And then, so now this should, okay, so that disappeared. Where'd it go? Yeah, that's another bug with this program. Sometimes it, when I'm in that header thing and then I escape out, sometimes the query disappears. So let's write that again. Me, name, and email. So now this should result in a JSON response. So there we go, unauthenticated. So let's do one more. Let's send in that authorization header. And the values bearer and token. Oh, let's go up here. It's this one. And save. Hopefully it doesn't get rid of my query. Okay, it's still there. But now this should work and it should return this user's details. And there we go. So we've successfully mimicked what we did in REST, but now we're using GraphQL. Okay, let me show you the rest of the auth endpoints here. So let's log out. And a logout response returns a logout response. Logout returns logout response. And it's just a status and a message. Okay, so let's do that. So let me comment this out. Is this a bug? It won't disappear. Oh, that sucks. Let me refresh it. Okay. So logout. So that is a mutation. Let me put it here. Mutation. Logout. And what does that expect? Just a message. So I'm passing in the token. Obviously, you have to be logged in to be able to log out. So this should log the user out. Okay. So this user with this token is no longer logged in. So the token is invalidated. So this should no longer work. So if I uncomment this, this should not work anymore. Okay, cool. And let's go ahead and log in again. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to uncomment this. Actually, no, let's not log in again, because these next ones, I'm not going to do refresh token, but I'll do these two. Okay, so forgot password just requires an email. So we'll do this person over here. The same person. Okay. So mutation. Forgot password. And what is this? Oh no, that requires an email, right? Yes. So data, email, and it returns a message. And the email is this person. So before I do this, let me set my email driver to log, just so we can see it. So where's my email? Sorry, it should be mail. Yep. So let's change it to log. Okay, so let's try that. This should work, hopefully. And we should see the email in the log. Okay, so it's saying this error because we have to set up the auth scaffolding. So PHP artisan route, make auth. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. We have emailed you your password reset link. Let's look for this in the laravel.log. Should be this one. Scroll all the way down. And there it is right there. Cool. And let's take a look at the last one where we can actually update our password. So update forgotten password. And we need all of these fields. Okay. And then after that, we'll log in again with that new updated password. Okay, so what am I doing? Update forgotten password. Just comment this out. Let's do another mutation. Update forgotten password. That is type data. And then we need all of this stuff. So the email is, okay. What's next? Token. We can see that in here. So it should be this. Okay. Next is the new password. Sorry. Password. And it's a secret 2. And the next one is password confirmation, secret 2. And I think this requires something. Just a message again, yep. And hopefully this works. Give it a try. There we go. Your password has been reset. So now, if we log in again, up here, this should not work because secret 2 is now the new password. So let's see what we get. Awesome, incorrect. But if we do this, there we go, cool. So there you have it, guys. We've managed to use this package to recreate the functionality of Passport and everything needed for authentication in GraphQL. So you might be wondering where register is. We actually did that already. Registering is just creating a new user. And we actually already have that from the first video, just creating a new user right here. So in the next video, we'll take a look at how to use this token in the front end using Vue and Vue Apollo. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.